Despite his size, Deuce Vaughn has been one of the most productive running backs in college football for the last 3 years. But is he an NFL running back? We're going to dive into that today. What's up, guys? Welcome back for another 2023 NFL Draft Prospect Profile. We've been doing these for a few weeks now, so make sure you hit that subscribe, hit the notification. We pretty much put out a video every day. I think it'd be worth your while. And I should, this video came from a comment on last week's video. So if you have a player that you want me to hit for the 2023 NFL Draft, drop it in the comments. I will be sure to hit that next week. If there are multiple, I'll just start stacking a list. But I do appreciate the feedback, and I want to talk about players that you guys want to hear about. So today we are going to dive into Deuce Vaughn and the little subtitle, Big Things Come in Small Packages. So a lot of the discussion about Deuce Vaughn is out of his control, unfortunately, but it is something that needs to be discussed for NFL value in the future because we'll get into it. But Deuce Vaughn is a small guy, and despite that, he's been really, really good. He's been really great in the Big 12. He looks like one of the most productive running backs, despite facing some pretty good defenses over in the Big 12. So we're going to dive into it today and really determine if he's going to have a large workload at the NFL level, what kind of outlook we should be expecting, if he's a sleeper, where his draft capital might land, things like that. But first thing, by the numbers. So 2020, three-star recruit, number 16 all-purpose back. He wasn't highly recruited. He only had 5 Power 5 offers, and he landed at Kansas State, where he has been very, very good. 66, that's the number, 66 inches tall. That is going to be something that NFL teams have their eye on. I couldn't fit the weight on here as well, but that's probably more relevant to what NFL teams think about him, right? Because people are looking for guys that can withstand a large workload, but he's a pretty stout guy. I think he's actually going to end up being 65 inches tall when the combine rolls around, if he lets them measure him. The listed height and weight I have for him, I don't know if it's verified, but it's 5'5", 171. So he's a small little guy, and that's probably why he wasn't recruited very highly. Outside of the fact that he had one productive high school season his junior year, but it was very, very productive. He averaged 172.9 rushing yards per game. He was very, very good, and that alone kind of put him on the radar of a few teams. Obviously, he would have liked to have gotten a few more offers, I think, but I think he landed in a good spot where they're using him, and he's been used since he entered college. I think one thing that a lot of a lot of high school kids don't consider is how immediately they can get on the field. And Deuce picked a spot where there was opportunity there. And since he got there, he's been ultra productive. So, as I said, 5'5", 171, 5'6", 176. It's all jargon. It really doesn't matter. That's just, he's small. He is small. Rushing, his career numbers through 2.5 years, a little over a half now, but 531 attempts, 3,021 rushing yards, and 30 touchdowns, and then 104 receptions for 1,118 yards and 8 touchdowns. So a little bit of that receiving ability that he's going to need if he's going to be an NFL back. We'll talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses, but overall on a production factor, I mean, I have a production grade in my scale that obviously I don't hit until the end of the season, but I don't see a reason why he's not going to end up being a full 10. He has just been very, very dominant with his touches, and they like to feed him the rock, and he has shown that he can withstand that in the Big 12. Let's get into a little bit of a scouting report, because I think that Deuce Vaughn does a lot of things that do translate to the NFL level, but there are a few little hangups that I think is probably going to push his draft capital down just a little bit. So strengths, short area agility, and burst. Those two things combined allow for Deuce Vaughn to be a really, really successful running back at the college level. He is able to, display patience and find holes and then burst through the holes. He gets chunk yardage in a very short amount of time. He is very quick. He is actually really tough to bring down for a small guy. He's constantly fighting for an extra yard. His contact balance, you'll see it under the weaknesses, because I think that once you translate it to an NFL level where he's playing guys that, maybe are in the SEC right now, I don't think the contact balance is going to translate very well, but he's got pretty good contact balance, especially for his size. Um, but the short area agility and burst, he's able to win in a phone booth. You'll hear that a lot with scouting talk and prospect evaluation and things like that. But he really can get a defender right up into him and still make him miss. And that's valuable, especially he's got to be able to make people miss at that size. And he does a really good job of it. And that's why he's been so productive. He's very difficult to wrap up. And then the burst, we'll talk about the long speed, but he definitely has juice in the first 5 to 10 yards. And you see that. And that's why he's able to succeed between the tackles. That's why he's able to succeed out in space. Um, and that's great. And, that's really good. And then the receiving ability. I talked about the patience a little bit already, but the receiving ability is what is going to make him money at the NFL level. He has shown an ability to run routes downfield. He has a little bit of shake. And he has really good hands. He's displayed a really sound ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think that that's going to be important in valuing him for fantasy football, but also if your favorite NFL team drafts Deuce Vaughn, you have to know what you're getting a little bit. Weaknesses. Of course, I've been kind of hammering the point home, but size is important. Of of the running backs drafted after 2000, so from 2000 to 2022, the players who have hit 1,000 yards rushing that are under 200 pounds, the list is five: Ahmad Bradshaw, Justin Forsett, Philip Lindsay, Steve Slayton, and Ray Rice. The list of players under 190 pounds is zero. We have never seen 1,000-yard rusher since 2000 at under 190 pounds. And Deuce Vaughn is obviously going to come in well below that. And the reason I bring that up and the rushing productivity is because Deuce Vaughn is very much so a player that thrives with carries. He's very much so a guy who gets into a rhythm, and that's how he starts to, wear defenses down. When he's only attacking as a third down back, for example, I'm not sure exactly what value he's gonna have, because, there's only so much you can do when you're only on the field for a limited number of snaps, and the size is not gonna he's not gonna get 12 carries, every week for 8 years in the NFL. So, I think that that's gonna matter, and ultimately, I think that that's gonna be what pushes him down draft boards. I've seen a lot of discussion about him sneaking his way onto day 2, and I think that'd be really great for him. I think the production kind of warrants that. But we've seen what NFL teams tend to do with guys that are a little smaller. I think Kyron Williams last year, where he was a smaller guy and he really wasn't super fast. And that brings me to kind of my next point here. Deuce Vaughn, he gets into the open field, and then I feel it's this won't come off right, but his legs are short and it's kind of really easy to catch him. He doesn't have the best long speed. The burst through the first 10 to 15 yards is fantastic. However, if he's being caught, NFL teams are going to notice that. I think his 40 time is not going to be exactly where it needs to be. Now, he may run a 4.4, but a 4.4 at 171 isn't quite a 4.4 at 205. And so you'd really want to see some really, really nice speed from him, and it doesn't really pop up on his film. So I've been doing player comparisons to kind of conclude these videos. There's one player that comes to mind now. He is quite a bit heavier, which sounds crazy, but Boston Scott, I feel like, is a pretty good comparison for what Deuce Vaughn can be at the NFL level. The Eagles have kind of shown that Boston Scott can handle a little bit of a workload in times. They don't love to trust Boston Scott, and I think that that's where we're going to be with Deuce Vaughn as well. But right now, Deuce Vaughn's looking like a day 3 selection that I think can make an impact in the passing game. It's just about, will he get the opportunity to do that? Because as a day 3 running back, we know that opportunities come and they go, and there's always the potential to, be replaced. And so I hope that Deuce Vaughn gets drafted to a team that's willing to use him very early in his career and see what he has. Unfortunately, I'm not positive that that's gonna be the case. So, if you're in a Devy league or something like that, I think now is the time to get out on Deuce Vaughn, similar to, Kenneth Gainwell a couple years ago, similar to Kyron Williams last year. I think that now is the time to get out on him. But if you're looking from an NFL draft perspective, I think that you'd be excited to add this player on day 3, round probably 5, 6, or 7 is kind of where I'm seeing him, land. I think you'd be excited to add him as a potential change of pace back, but also just a guy that can impact games through the air. The structure of what the NFL running back rooms are built upon is changing a little bit. And so a guy like Deuce Vaughn definitely has the opportunity now to maybe be impactful and potentially be impactful for fantasy football as well. So that'll do it for this one. It's shorter than the rest of them, but that's just on brand for what Deuce Vaughn is. So I'm sorry, Deuce, if you're watching this, I appreciate you. You're a very good football player, and I have no beef with you at all. Like I said, guys, make sure you drop a comment. Let me know who you want to hear about. I don't condense this to just the fantasy positions. If you guys want to hear about Trenton Simpson from Clemson, Miles Murphy from Clemson, well, Clemson has a lot of good defensive players, and just let me know. I really like breaking that film down and then kind of bringing the strengths and weaknesses and giving a little bit of an outlook. So drop a comment. Let me know who you want to hear about next week. And thank you guys for joining. We'll talk to you guys then.